Washes have been the lifeblood of tabletop miniatures for years. With a name like Liquid Talent, one would think it is the solution to all your miniature painting problems. So, why does it suck sometimes? Today, let's talk about the secrets you need to unlock a new level of washes and contrast paints to help you get your models on the table faster and better looking than ever before. But first, a quick overview of the products we are talking about. Washes are designed to sink into the recesses of your model and create shadows and definitions in a single coat. Similarly, contrast paints also sink into the recesses to create definition, but they are far more opaque and can also paint your surface. But both products have several downsides. 1. They are hard to use or even impossible to use on large areas with smooth surfaces. Applying a wash or contrast paint to a cape or any other large piece of fabric is typically a nightmare. Painting on large surfaces like this can leave brush strokes, and the paints have a tendency to pool in unnatural areas. 2. Washes can tint the surface and cause coffee staining. If you paint over a yellow base coat with a red wash, your model is going to turn orange. If you try to only paint your wash in strategic areas to avoid tinting, you can end up with a harsh outline, clearly illustrating the edge of where you painted. With our biggest problems explained, let's talk about how to fix them. 1. It is important to recognize that washes and contrast paints require a lot of babysitting and care. These paints dry very quickly, and things like directing paint, using the proper brush strokes, and absorbing pooling all takes time. So, to fit in all the steps we may need, it is important to work in sections. The easiest way to do this is by body part. Paint one leg, then the other. But do whatever you think is manageable on your model. If the item you are painting is one large continuous surface, then you'll want to paint all of that at once, which we will talk about later. Unless it's huge, in which case washes or contrast paints just might not be a good idea. Doing large areas in multiple sections can cause coffee staining, which sucks. 2. The way in which you apply your wash or contrast paint is extremely important, especially when you are painting on large, smooth areas. Using the incorrect brushstrokes can cause strange pooling, visible brush texture, coffee staining, and uneven coverage. Though it is important to note that brand can impact this as well. Here you can see the nightmare that is attempting to paint a smooth surface with Vallejo xpress paints. The traditional way of applying these paints is just by slapping it on using whatever brush strokes get the job done, which can work, but can also cause problems. Instead, we want to apply our paint with as few strokes as possible. Use the largest brush that can reasonably fit on your model, and use the side of your brush, pulling it across the entire surface. Imagine it like we are spreading peanut butter on a piece of bread. Start your brush strokes at one edge of the element, then place your next brush stroke right at the wet edge of your previous stroke. Washes and contrast paints tend to collect on the edges of our paint strokes, which is what causes coffee staining. By painting our second stroke on the wet edge, we are blending out what would otherwise be a harsh line. Second, pull your brush in the direction you want your shadows to fall. Wherever your brush leaves the model will leave an extra dollop of paint. So we can use that to our advantage by placing that dollop into the shadow areas. Usually this means starting from the top and pulling down, but I'm sure there are examples where that is not the case. Before we continue, I am attending ReaperCon in Denton, Texas, and I am so excited. And while I expected the hardest part of ReaperCon to be painting the competition-worthy miniature, it actually has ended up being buying airfare. That's why today we're talking about Surfshark. Surfshark is an app and browser extension that allows you to make your browsing private, hide or change your internet address, and stops people from tracking you. Surfshark would have prevented the websites from raising the prices every time I visited them, or I could have changed my IP address to a different country and possibly found an even cheaper flight. Surfshark also encrypts your data for another level of protection for your passwords when traveling. If you're looking to get more out of your VPN, Surfshark also offers antivirus protection or Surfshark alerts that lets you know when there has been a breach, which includes your personal data. Surfshark is risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up now using code LYLAMEV and receive 83% off and an additional 3 months of Surfshark for free. So check the link in my description box. Thanks so much, Surfshark. Let's get back to painting. Lastly, be very cautious when going back over yet to dry washes and contrast paints, and if you have to, reapply the product to your brush and then go back over it. Once a wash or contrast paint begins to dry, it's pretty much over. The previous issues of visible brushstrokes, uneven coverage, staining, and strange pooling all stem from touching yet to dry paint. If you mess it up, it's better to just let the paint dry and try again. That could be repainting the base color or just applying a second layer of contrast paints. Three. The pooling nature of washes and contrast paint is what gives us our one-coat shadows. However, it is possible for the paints to pool too much and look unrealistic, or pool in undesirable places. To fix this, take a damp brush and gently place it into the pooling paint as quickly as possible. Again, messing with yet to dry washes is a risk. Remove the paint on a paper towel off to the side or on your hand and repeat as necessary. How much you absorb is up to you, but we do still want to leave some amount in the recesses, otherwise it just becomes a colored filter without the shadows and contrast we probably want. 4. Obviously, the strength of a wash is how it settles into the recesses to create shadows. However, when applied generally over the model, it can also tint your original color. Luckily, there is a stupid simple solution to fix this problem and achieve incredibly smooth recess shading. First, we want to work in sections for this technique, but even smaller than before. It's not a big deal if you start too large, you can't really mess this up, at least with the size of area you're painting. Well, within the confines of what I'll talk about next. But you'll figure it out as you go. Second, the recesses need to be quite deep. Check the recesses in this Bloodborne model compared to the pauldron of this Space Marine. If the recess is too shallow, the wash will begin to bleed and smudge along your model. With the proper recesses, let's get to it. Begin by wetting the area you want to paint with a wet brush. Just a small amount of water is required, otherwise you'll be waiting forever. Allow the water to begin to evaporate until it is only settled in those recesses. If you're impatient like me, you can use your finger to wipe away excess water. And though I do it here, please don't use a paper towel, it leaves little bits of fuzz. Learn from my mistake. Then, using a brush with a decent tip, carefully dab the wash where you want it in the recesses. The wash will get sucked along the water to line your areas perfectly. Also, a quick side note, always use clean water. Lastly, be sure to let an area fully dry before you try any areas nearby. If you plan to pinline multiple close areas on a model, let each one dry before you start on the next one. Otherwise, you can cause bleeding and smudging. Alright, that's it from me. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you like what I do, go support me on Patreon. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.